I call the honourable member Joe Goodhue.
I move that the question be now put.
No. I'm going to call the honourable member Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair, and I think it's important that we make sure that the debate in the committee stages covers the bases of this bill, and certainly in the earlier calls that I was involved in part one of the bill, Mr Chair, there were a number of questions raised by members on this side of the House about the scope, particularly around the student service levies section, and then obviously as we move to the transitional provisions of the bill, that is about how this bill will come into force, how it can actually work in relation to a range of different entities, and I didn't feel myself, Mr Chair, that when we were in part one of the bill that there was a sufficient contribution from the Minister around how some elements of this process are going to work. In particular, Mr Chair, I was concerned about well, not concerned, that's not the right word, because I actually think it's a good thing that there is a cap around the student service levy, because it's clearly gone out of control. But as we transition to this new arrangement, the Minister now has an extraordinary range of powers, actually. He's not so much daddy cool as daddy state, Mr Joyce. That's where he's reached in this particular clause, or this particular bill, Mr Chair, because the Minister gets to give a series of directions to an institution around the list of categories for student services, and so basically what are the broad areas of student services that an institution can provide, and then the Minister, if the Minister's not satisfied with where the institutions end up in terms of that broad category of student services, they can then actually move to directing the types of services that are provided by a minister. So as we move in this bill to finalise the arrangements in part two, as we are for how the bill will come into force, the minister really didn't describe to us exactly how he was going to do that. What sort of judgments was the minister going to make about what was a sufficient range of student services, what was a sufficient range of costs for student services, and most particularly, as was raised in earlier stages, who's the minister going to consult with? Clause 227(1)(c) requires the institution or institutions to establish adequate arrangements for decisions to be made jointly or in consultation with the students enrolled at the institution or their representatives on any or all of the following matters, and that includes the types of services that are available and the amount students will pay. Well, who's the minister going to be consulting with? As the minister, as we move to bring this, as this bill is moved to be brought into force by part two, we have another bill in the House that would actually wipe out the representatives, as mentioned in clause 227(1)(c), because those representatives would be from student associations who will cease to exist within this bill. So I'm aware, Mr Chair, that we are in part two of the bill and we are discussing the transitional provisions, but it does matter as to how this bill actually comes into force. How will the minister be doing that? How will the minister be able to enact this legislation if there is no student association for him to actually consult with? And so this is the problem we have on this side of the House with the bill in general, Mr Chair, is that while it's a laudable goal to limit the growth and costs of student services levies, there's a squeeze on institutions in terms of their overall funding, and that's what's led to the rise in student service levies. And now there's a squeeze from the other direction in terms of student associations going out of action who provide a range of services. And then on top of that, the students are now expected to be somehow consulted without their representative organisation actually being there. So laudable goal in this bill, Mr Chair, but I really don't think that the Minister answered the questions adequately earlier about how it would actually happen, how he would play the role of daddy state for the institutions when it comes to deciding what student services that they can offer. And so I just make that point as we discuss the transition arrangements, how this bill will actually come into force. I feel that there are some risks ahead for institutions, and unless this government's actually prepared to fund tertiary institutions properly and support student associations, it will be very difficult to bring this act into force.
The question is that part two stand part. All those in favour please say aye. The contrary no. The ayes have it. Party vote called for. Clerk will please conduct a party vote. Thank you.
New Zealand National.
57 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
42 votes in favour.
Green Party,
9 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand,
5 votes in favour.
Maori Party,
3 votes opposed.
Progressive,
1 vote in favour.
United Future,
1 vote in favour.
Mana, Honourable Chris Carter.
1 vote in favour.
Any other votes?
Honourable members, the ayes are 116, the noes are 3. The motion is agreed to. The question now is that clauses 1 to 3 stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. This is clause 1, of course, we're voting on. That clause 1 stand part. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that clause 2 stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that clause 3 stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. I will report this bill with amendment.
The House is resumed.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Chairman.
The committee has considered the Education Amendment Bill number 4 and reports it with amendment. Mr. Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
Question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. This bill is set down for third reading forthwith.